Hey everyone, welcome to Dialogues Across the Decades, conversations with Balfour-Hesburgh Scholars Program alumni, where we will share the legacy and impact of the Balfour-Hesburgh Scholars Program at the University of Notre Dame. My name is Ayana Fakhir. I graduated from the class of 1990. No, wait a minute, I forgot. 2000. I entered in 1996. I graduated from the class of 2000. Whew. And I'll be spending some time with you today. I'll be spending some time with you today discussing how our alumni class paved the way for the future Balfour-Hesburgh Scholars Program. But before we jump into that, I wanted to thank all of the co-sponsors of Dialogues Across the Decades, including the Balfour-Hesburgh Scholars Program and the Notre Dame Alumni Association. And now I'd like to take some time to welcome our distinguished panel of guests. I'll start with you, Quincy. Go ahead. Hello.
Hello, yes, hi. My name is Quincy Starnes. I am also class of 2000. I was a Balfour-Hesburgh scholar with Ayana and Jeff that you'll meet, and Joe was one of our mentors. I lived in St. Ed's all 4 years, I'm proud to say. Go gentlemen. And I was let's see, film, television, and theater. Yes, they changed it in the middle of the 4 years I was there to film, television, and theater. And now I am the theater department chair here in Dickinson, Texas, which is in between Houston and Galveston. So I like to say Houston. I am the theater department chair at Bay Area Arts Conservatory, which is an after school arts conservatory where we teach children ages 2 to 18 years old. So I am over the theater department. So I teach musical theater and acting as well as some dance.
All right. Thank you, Quincy. And now over to you, Joseph Rolón, excuse me.
Oh, actually, Joseph Rolón. You gotta get that.
Oh, Joseph Rolón.
Rolón, you gotta roll that R, roll that R. Hi, everyone.
Rolón.
Thank you. And I had the pleasure of being the RA to Quincy Ayana. And well, I guess to Quincy and Jeff, of course, but honorary to Ayana. So again, my name is Joe Rolón. I graduated in the class of 98, actually. But I got to participate in Balfour for 4 summers, actually. I was a participant in 94. I was a tutor in 95, and then in 96 and 97, I was an RA. And let's see, something interesting about me. I currently work at Princeton University. I'm the assistant dean for student life there. And so you never really get away from that whole mentoring and interacting with students. And that's what keeps me young and vibrant, hopefully. And yeah, we will delve into quite a bit of it. And thank you.
All right. And thank you, Joseph Rolón. And now, Dr. Jeffrey Sandate. Your turn.
Hello. I'm Jeff Sandate. Like Ayana and Quincy, graduated in the class of 2000. I was a Balfour 1996 entrant. Um, let's see, I lived in Morrissey Manor. I'm a Manorite. I majored in science pre-professional studies, and for the last almost 18 years, I've been practicing OBGYN in Dallas, Texas.
All right. You all sound so interesting. I guess I should mention that I'm an attorney in Ohio. And I lived in Knott Hall, which after the first year became a men's dorm, and I moved to McGlynn. So I am a McGlynn Shamrock, but also a Knott Hall, whatever they were. I don't know. I don't remember what they were. But I was a Shamrock for 3 years, all the way over on the golf quad, excuse me. And so now I'm a lawyer living in Ohio, doing lawyer stuff. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here with you all. I haven't seen these faces in years. I've heard the voices. We've talked on social media so many times. I'm sure you guys have talked in person, but I've only seen you all on social media. So I'm so happy, 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 happy to see your faces. And you can finally see mine. Yes.
I'm happy to see that beautiful face and hear that
Yeah.
beautiful
Oh,
voice.
thanks. But, you know, for a few summers back in the 90s, we gathered together at the University of Notre Dame. Joe had a head start, and you, me, and Quincy, Jeff, got there in 1996, and we carried some expectations. We had some expectations, and some of them were just completely washed away once we got there and saw. I mean, my goodness, it was for me the second time I had seen the campus. The first time was at that spring break student, like pre-admitted student orientation thing, and then they had us in the ballroom and they announced that we had all gotten into the University of Notre Dame, and everybody was like, yeah, oh my God. And then the next time I saw Notre Dame was that summer of the Balfour-Hesburgh Scholars Program, and that's where we found each other. That's where we all found each other. And so the Balfour-Hesburgh program was created to help students transition into one of America's most prestigious universities and to create community where isolation might otherwise exist. And now we are at the 40th anniversary of this program. We're going to celebrate, we're going to live it up. Yay! Balfour-Hesburgh! Only my knees are creaking and my back is old, so I might not be living it up as much as I would like. But I wanted to just get an idea from you guys, because I know when we did like the little pre-game for this, we talked a lot about the social aspects, and we're going to do the social aspects. But one of the first things I wanted to get into is the what's your very first memory when you think about Balfour-Hesburgh? What's the very first thing that you think of when you think of Balfour-Hesburgh? Like, was it getting off the plane? Was it meeting your RA for the first time? Was it seeing the campus? Was it your dorm and how unbelievably hot it was? What was the first thing? What's the first thing you remember about that experience?
I
And
have
I'll start with, I'll start with the seniorest member of our party, Joseph. Go
So,
ahead.
so I'm going to give two versions. I'm going to talk about when I first arrived in '94 for my year as a participant. And what stood out to me was one, it was the height of fashion with overalls, and so I wore the denim overalls with one side strap and the other hanging down. And I remember my peers having opinions on that, not necessarily positive, but amusing. Um, and when I got off the plane at South Bend Airport, I saw some of the participants getting onto a bus and then seeing that bus leave me behind. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I had to take a cab to that hotel, St. John's, St. Mary's, or whatever that hotel was. That's where we gathered. And then I remember seeing I had visited Notre Dame one time before, and I remember it being as white as like this wall, behind me, and then just seeing all the color that really like stuck out to me. And I was like, okay, so I'm not alone. And and I also remember thinking, oh, these are probably just the only students of color that got in. And so it was an adjustment. But yeah, it was the fashion, the people, and really just seeing other people like me, and different from me. But that was important to me. And then I remember the year you all arrived. And Jeff, I think you were the second person I met. I think Mike was the first one that I met when you both arrived, or maybe I met you first, and then we met Mike. Mike Gonzalez is also part of that Balfour year group, and just thinking, wow, like this is the next generation. This is like the next cohort of people, and just being really happy to sort of pass on what I had kind of gone through, and being a part of that, and you all were a part of the Millennium class, right? The class of 2000. So I think for me, just seeing all your young faces and thinking, oh, I get to mentor them, but I also get to mess with them too, and it's going to be fun. All right.
And you did. You did. You did. It's fine. We learned a lot. We some things we'll keep to ourselves. Jeff, Dr. Jeff, as I like to call you, what was your very first memory arriving at Notre Dame for your Balfour summer? Well,
I don't
our
know if it
Balfour summer, rather.
Yeah, I don't know if it was necessarily my very first memory. I can't remember exactly what I first thought stepping on the campus, because that was the first time that I actually stepped onto the campus was for Balfour. But my probably my most important memory was meeting Quincy. He arrived late, and it was just this larger than life personality and just, the life of the party. So I remember that was a great memory, one of my great first memories of that summer. And he was actually my roommate.
Oh, Quincy, you get to be someone's very first best memory of something. Aren't you special?
That's
Quincy,
thank you, Jeff. That warms my heart.
Quincy, what do you remember? What's your very first memory about Balfour-Hesburgh?
So my first memory is like Jeff, I never stepped on campus until Balfour summer. But going back, I remember getting on that little plane from Chicago to South Bend, and Angel was on the same flight with me. And I remember them having to rearrange the seating of where we were sitting on the plane to make sure that it was balancing out. And I had been on planes before, but not one that small, so that made me very nervous. But then getting to campus and, well, stepping off the plane, in South Bend, thinking that I was escaping the hot, humid Houston weather for the summer, and realizing that it is the exact same weather that Houston has in the summer, which I was like, "Well, at least I'm used to it. At least it's not something I have to get used to," but being a little disappointed. But yes, then meeting Jeff as my roommate, when I finally arrived, and yes, we were late. I don't know if you all remember, I'm always a little late to things. Not through I hate being late. My mother, God rest her, my mother's the reason that I was late. So,
Well, Quincy, you were on time for this, so you broke the record. You broke your own record, Quincy.
thank you, thank you.
I think I remember the fact that there was no air conditioning in the dorms, and I thought, oh wow, just like home, just like home. So, but I also remember my roommate, little, and I don't want to call her little, but she was so tiny, Adriana, who's a part of this whole operation. She's the one who bullied me into doing this. I love her. I love her. So, uh, listen, you guys shared your first memory. You got onto the campus. Oh my gosh, what did that campus feel like? Because when you get there, you really don't have anything to do. They kind of have activities for you to do, but you can also just go wander around and look at everything. And I remember seeing the murals and the statues and the grotto and the lake, and I'm like, wow, this place is like I don't even know. And it was quiet. It was very quiet. Quincy, what did you think about the campus when you first saw it?
I was in awe. Being from Houston, if it's 25 years old, we knock it down here. There's not really any historical, like, it really has to be historically preserved, but we don't truly care about history here, which makes me sad. But to see all of, like, I mean, these dorms were, some of them were older than my grandparents, and just the Golden Dome was, I mean, you hear about it, but to see it in real life, it's just like, oh my gosh. And then touchdown Jesus again, you see all of this. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And being from Houston again, where it's kind of all urban and everything is paved and there's not a lot of nature, unless you live in the country of the outskirts of Houston, to be around all the trees and it was really awe-inspiring. And just to think like, wow, I get to go here. And I think it was also a little different for me because I went to a small private school here in Houston, and only 3 of my classmates ended up leaving the Houston area to go to school. I mean, my graduating class was 72 people, and only 3 of us. One went to Annapolis, I went to Notre Dame, and one went to Arizona, and we were the only 3 to leave the Houston area. So it was really um, it was really amazing, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, Joseph, what did you think about the campus?
I thought it was too quiet, to be honest. I grew up in New Jersey, but in a very urban area. Like outside my window where my parents live, I can see the New York City skyline. And so I remember thinking, oh, like there's a lot of trees and insect noises and sort of things like that. But it was also sort of surreal to me because it was really sort of my first time away from like my family, for a significant amount of time. It was 4 weeks or 6 weeks or however long we were there. Um, and I actually, a sad thought was I wasn't sure if I was going to make friends or not, like with my group that year, because I had arrived late. I looked weird apparently, and I was wrong. Like I made a lot of friends, but my first thing is, wow, it's really quiet, like really, really, like campus in the summer is very, very quiet. So yeah, too quiet.
Do you guys remember that smell?
From
Ethanol,
the
the ethanol.
what's it?
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
ethanol.
Yes,
Do you remember experiencing that for the first
yes.
time?
Oh
Nobody
yes.
warned me about that.
No.
No, no warnings. And actually,
No warning.
because I used to live in, I forgot to say where I lived in St. Ed's and Zom, but Quincy and I lived in we crossed over in St. Ed's for I think for like a year. Um,
Mhm.
and you could really, because where the guys lived, we lived in Zom Hall, and then I forget where the female students lived across from us with the like being with a B, I think. I forget the name of the dorm that the
BP, Green Phillips.
BP, yes, BP. And that's what you could strongly smell the ethanol smell there. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? Like, really, what the hell's going on?
And I'm from East Cleveland, Ohio, and I've smelled, Northeast Ohio, you smell factory smells, you got the smoke from everyone's gas guzzling cars. But that smell, I was like, oh, it's beautiful, but also, what is that? Why? But Jeff, what did you think about the campus when you got a chance to go look around?
I thought it was magical. I thought it was, and I've been to several college campuses, since then, and I still think Notre Dame is probably the most beautiful campus that I've ever seen. I thought it was just a magical place and spiritual, and um, I don't know. I really enjoyed the first few days of discovering the campus. I come from the desert. That's where I grew up. So seeing all the lush green grass and trees and that was something different, definitely for me.
Yeah, I have to imagine it was a very different experience for you Texans. Yeah, the heat, the desert, and then you come to South Bend and it's like it's kind of city-ish, not really, but it was just the trees, the grass, and then the lake. We have our own lake at Notre Dame. Like I was surprised that we had our own zip code. Like Notre Dame is its own little city, right? And the first thing you want to do, you want to go to the bookstore and you want to buy all the merch, you want the t-shirts and I still have one of those t-shirts actually. And you want the slides and the all the sweatshirts. You want to just
And the air
be
conditioning.
immersed in it. The air But what surprised me the most, the people. The people surprised me the most. Not just inside of the Balfour-Hesburgh program, but outside of it, right? Because we get that immersion for, was it 4 weeks or 6 weeks? I can't remember. Anybody know for sure? I think it was
It
four
was four.
weeks.
Yeah, I think it was
4 weeks, right? 4 weeks. And then you come back in the fall and this is, 3, 4 months and it's thousands of people. You go from your little cohort to thousands of people. And then your friends from Balfour are spread out all over everywhere. You may not get to see each other every day. Your roommate is somebody you don't know. You had a different roommate for 4 weeks, and then you come back and there's this new person. The people surprised me so much. My roommate, Regina, may she rest in peace. Um, a white woman from Minnesota who had never met a Black person in the flesh before. And so I was like, oh, because I had interactions with white people, with Hispanic people, people from all different kinds of cultures, because of my religious community, but also because of school activities that took me all over the state of Ohio. I had even gone to North Carolina, so I had experience. She didn't, and so that was an adjustment for her. But for you guys, what surprised you most about the people of Notre Dame? Not just in Balfour-Hesburgh, but outside of that. And I'll start with you, Jeff. Let us know. Don't hold back, Jeff. Don't be nice.
Well, when I found out that I was going to live with three other guys, that kind of took me aback. I had my own room growing up. So basically, I was like an only child. So having to share a space with three other strangers, essentially, that kind of threw me for a loop. And then when I got to see the space where we're going to live, and it's the size of probably a small bedroom here. So you have four guys living in a teeny tiny room with, beds on top of desks and wardrobes, and trying to get used to everybody's personalities and cleanliness or lack thereof. That was kind of a shock for me.
So, do you think that Balfour prepared you for that particular part of it? Because Balfour was, you had a roommate and you had an RA,
Yeah,
and so maybe you got kind of used to it. But then you get in the fall, you're living with four other people.
right, right. So it did. Living with Quincy over the summer for the 4 weeks, that got me used to living with somebody else and sharing space with somebody else. Um, but yeah, that having to live with three guys in one small room, that was something to get used to for sure.
And what about cultural aspects? Can you speak a little bit about that? Because I know you're Hispanic.
Mhm.
Um, maybe your roommates were not Hispanic.
They were not
Maybe they
Hispanic.
had,
They were,
yeah, maybe they had no experience with a Hispanic person.
and some of them
Was that
did, and some of them
awkward
had
for
very.
them
I think
or you?
it was not necessarily awkward for them. It really wasn't awkward for me either. I think initially, some of them who came from back east, they had gone, to private school, predominantly white private schools, and hadn't, you know, been around a lot of people of color. And so I think once I brought my Balfour friends around, and my friend groups into the situation, and I think some good friendships were made as a result of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Joe, I know you got a full clip to unload.
I'm not friends with my first year roommate. My Balfour, like, so Balfour did prepare me because in Balfour I technically had two roommates: Pete Sanchez, may he rest his peace, and Clement Stokes. But Clement Stokes was a football player, and so I don't know if your year you had any football players on in Balfour, but Clement, his brother had been
Yeah, I
also
don't
been a
think
football
so.
player, and so he hung out with them. So he never stayed in the room. So Pete Sanchez and I had a big room just to ourselves. And so that was great. And then my first year college, like after the wonderful experience that was living with Pete, my my first year roommate, it was not an ideal situation. We did not like each other at all. And he was white. He was came from money. His grandfather was had a World Series or something at some point in his life, so there was a lot of privilege there that I did not have, um, and so that led to a lot of clashes. He had seen, I'm Latino. He had seen other Latinos, like he was from LA, so he had, but just we clashed, I think, culturally, and I won't go into too much detail, but we stayed roommates another year just to because I wasn't gonna leave and he wasn't gonna leave. And my parents always taught me like, okay, someone does something to you, you do it back, but better. And I did. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to get kicked out of Notre Dame, so I don't want to get into a fight or anything like that. But psychological warfare, my friends, it worked. It helped a lot with that experience. But yeah, I think Balfour did sort of help. That was well. I mean, I had an older brother, so I always shared a room. But sharing a room with someone that is not a family member, who is not like you, it can be pretty bad. But then it got better, and then I had a single, so that worked out pretty well. And then Jeff, I think you and I were roommates for one summer. I think, yeah, yeah. And so
That's correct. I
it
think the
helped.
next summer I'd come back.
Yeah. But you also brought up a good point about roommates. When you brought up, once your roommate met your Balfour friends, I think we had the advantage that we knew people coming in, that even my roommate at the time would hang out with like, I had a group, he didn't have a group. And so that felt kind of cool, like, okay, wow, you may have the power, but I have the people.
Right. And I remember my roommate, Regina, met Quincy, and she loved Quincy. She just loved Quincy. Everybody loves Quincy, by the way. Loved and loves him. He was like the icebreaker sometimes for a lot of us in these groups. But Quincy, what experience did you have? Do you think that Balfour prepared you for the roommate situation, or I know you had an interesting roommate situation that first as you touch your eyeglasses.
Yes. So Jeff and I were great roommates. I think we're both cleanliness wise on the same level, and both very respectful of each other. And we just had, I mean, Balfour, there was work, but it was also so much fun. We did a lot of fun things, and it was great to really connect with a group of people. Again, I went to a small private school, so I was surrounded by white people 90% of the time. The only time I was surrounded by other people of color was if I was with my family or at church. Otherwise, it was living in a predominantly white world. Um, so being in Balfour was an amazing experience that summer to just be just us, people of color and all of the ways we can relate to each other no matter where from in the country we're from. So Jeff spoiled me as a roommate. My roommate, um, unlike Jeff, my roommate did have a group because he was a swimmer. He was from a small town in Florida. We started off pretty okay, but just some of the habits that he had were not kosher to be all. Um, it was never antagonistic. It just got to the point where we just really didn't even speak to each other unless it was like, like, hey, I mean, we just kind of cohabitated with each other and then that, we had to stick out for the year, um, and then we just kinda moved on. I think my saving grace was, I was in, a really small section of St. Ed's. I was in, like, 101, and there was, like, 6 rooms in our dorm section, and, there were a couple of football players that lived across the hall from me, and there was, it was a really eclectic group, and they became really tight with me. He was not even a part of that group. It was very much like I had my Balfours, and then I also had like my dorm section mates that were really close and tight, with me, and they were like big brothers kind of to me. I remember when I started dating, they decided that they wanted to approve of my dates and meet my dates so that they could see whether or not they were, a good person. I'm like, y'all, we're all technically adults right now, so you don't have any say in this. Um, but definitely I grew up, I have a little brother, and he and I shared a room from the time he was born until I was 9 or 10. I think I was 10 when I got my own room. So, sharing a room with, had never been an issue for me, but as you all said, I'm a lot. I am a lot. I'm an extra person, and there are people that don't handle that, and my freshman year roommate was not a lot. He was definitely, an athlete, but not like a football player. Different athletes are different ways, and I think swimmers tend to be a little more, introverted than a lot of people, so I think that I was kind of off-putting for him that way.
One of the things that I think Balfour-Hesburgh definitely spoiled us on thinking that everywhere you go, you're going to see uh, a person who looks like you. You're going to see a Black person, you're going to see a Hispanic person, you're going to see Native American, you're going to see, somebody who looks like you. And that just was not the case. You thought everybody's going to be friendly, everybody's going to adjust to you, everything's going to be good and great. And listen, that was not the case. At least not for me. I don't want to speak for you, but that was not the case for me as a young Muslim girl. Like everyone I encountered thought that I was from the mean streets of Africa, and and I I was having to constantly correct people. Like, no, I'm from East Cleveland, Ohio. I'm from Ohio. Oh, the Cleveland Indians, right? Yes, yes, the Cleveland Indians. Yes. But it was a culture shock. I was the culture shock for people. And that was exhausting. That was exhausting. No, I didn't speak a foreign language. I spoke a little Spanish, but no, I didn't speak a foreign language. No, I'm not, from sub-Saharan Africa. I'm sure it's a lovely place, but I'm from Ohio. Indiana is the first place besides North Carolina I had been in my entire life. Going to Notre Dame was the first time I had been on an airplane. I hadn't had too many big real life experiences in that way. And so living away from home, that was an adjustment as well. And I think that those 4 weeks, I thought, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And then I got there in the fall and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. And I don't want to say it's because of Balfour-Hesburgh, but Balfour definitely spoiled me. It really did. It felt like home. It felt so comfortable. The bonds that we formed, they were just so rich. And then in the fall, it was like, I miss that. I really miss that. And some of us ended up living on different sides of campus. And then especially when they built the new dorm, I was way over near the South Dining Hall. And so I didn't get to see you all as much as I wanted to. And so I developed a kind of loneliness for my Balfour-Hesburgh people. I still got to see you some, but not as much as I wanted. Did any of you feel that loneliness at all? I know, Joe, you got to see Mike and Jeff a lot, but did any of you get that loneliness feeling at all when you finally had to mix and mingle during the fall semester?
I did, but I like I the Balfour people were still my close group of friends. Like we had to make it sort of work. Like we had to schedule time to eat meals together and everything. So we had to put the effort in. But you're right. I think Balfour did sort of spoil us for that. Like I think for me the biggest shock was when I went to class and like the number like, my Psych 101 class, huge number of people and not being surrounded by familiar faces, complexion wise or identity wise. And so that I think was the bigger shock. But friend wise, yes, it was. But with my core group and even with some of your groups, like we found the time, I think, for each other. And we got a lot like I made some friends through other Balfour people too. It's like, okay, well, this is Joe. We were in Balfour together. I'm like, oh hey, Um, so that Balfour helped me that way. But I do agree with you in particular about the academic side of things. It was a shock for me because where I went to high school, I went to a private school, but it was predominantly Hispanic and Black, and so like some of the like I actually had an African American history course when I went to high school, and then the fact that no one else had that, and that like it was a weird sort of experience for that, but yeah, I think academically not being intimidated, having imposter syndrome, and not having the familiar faces, that was rough for me.
How about you, Jeff? What was was there a culture shock? Was there a loneliness? How did you? I know
So,
you have um Mikey or Michael Gonzalez,
right.
who's from you two graduated together.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you had like a built-in brother.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, that was
Yeah.
definitely an advantage for me, but I think after we started in the fall, we kind of go our own different ways, and so we don't get to hang out as often as we'd like to. And so I think for me, I think when I started in the fall, I was okay. I guess just the excitement of getting everything ramped up, and then I remember going home for that fall break my freshman year and coming back and just being completely homesick and just completely lonely. And like Joe said, I think a lot of it has to do with on the academic side, you feel kind of lost in these huge classrooms where, going to high school, there's like 30 of us in a classroom. And then you sit in these big lecture halls and you just kind of feel, where am I? And do I deserve to be here? That sort of thing. And then, I think too, academically, you're coming, or at least for me, I'll speak for myself, doing very well in high school, and it not coming easy, but you studied hard, you made the grades, you got the rewards, and then going to Notre Dame where everybody's coming from the same, you know, high standards for themselves, and it's kind of get lost. So for me, for sure, it was after that fall break where I kind of got homesick and lost it. But then I got myself back together.
You're awesome, Jeff. Quincy, did Balfour-Hesburgh make you feel special at all? Like you had been chosen to do something that not everyone could do? Like when you met up with other minority students and you told them that you were in Balfour-Hesburgh and they were like, oh, I applied and I didn't get in. Did that make you feel, oh, well, um, too bad, so sad? Or did you feel like,
Um, I would say that I felt special, but I also just felt special being at Notre Dame in general. Again, my I mean, I went to I keep saying this, but my went to a small Lutheran school. And so the kids in my school did not dream big. And so for me to go to Notre Dame was already in and of itself like such a special thing. And, I have two older brothers and neither one of them finished college. So, and I always say I was the great black hope of my family. So there was already a lot of pressure on me to go into Notre Dame. I will say that the Hesburgh program definitely taught me that um and my mother didn't wanna listen, and things has transpired that made her have to listen, but not a I'm not a STEM person. I'm a STEAM person. You have to have the arts in there for me. And yes, in high school, I got the grades and I got mostly A's and some B's. And my mom used to say, if you would study, you'd make straight A's. And I'm like, I don't study and I still have a 3.65 grade point average. Like, what's the point of studying if I'm doing so well? And coming into the Hesburgh program and being like, oh, this is work. Like, oh, I really have to like put in the effort to something that doesn't come naturally to me. Math is something I actually have to work hard at doing, but then also having this whole um pressure of you have to be pre-med. That's what my mother says. You have to be pre-med. You don't have a choice. And I'm like, this is not for me. And she's like, no, do it. And so having to really study, but meeting those other students and um I don't know if I ever met anyone and they were like, "Oh, I applied and I didn't get in." But there was a specialness because we already had that bond with each other. And that was the specialness there. Um and unfortunately, the way things went for me, I didn't get to see you all as much because of my degree track. So I kind of went way towards, the theater and the liberal arts side, and you all were still more science and technology and math and things of that nature. So I didn't get to see you all that much that way, but you always knew where to find me. Just come to La Fun, and Quincy was working at La Fortune.
yes, indeed, you were working. You were. I saw it. I think the first year I worked at the dining hall in the Observer, and that was an experience because I never did a job like that. I had done some internships, but I had never done a job like that. But I remember doing that and thinking, gosh, I cannot believe I have to do all of this just to become a lawyer. That was my track, and I had to stick with it. Because again, it was, yes, you're going to be the lawyer, or like you, Quincy, yes, you're going to be the doctor. You are. Um, and in many ways, Balfour-Hesburgh was, it was trying to teach us to be strong emotionally, socially, and academically. We got all of those things. We had a lot of group activities. We had that the tutoring, or was it like the homework session? And we attended classes together. And when the day was over, we could go out and hang out. And I just remember going back to my room because I was exhausted. It was a lot. It was a lot of things. And that's how school was. School was a lot. School was a lot every single day. So that was something that Balfour definitely prepared me for. But did you feel, in the group, the Balfour-Hesburgh group, did you feel seen or understood in ways you had never been seen or understood before? Like in your family dynamic, maybe, or in your high school dynamic, did you feel seen by the people, by the professors, by people who worked with the program? Did you feel different? Did they treat you differently? Did you go home thinking, well, I'm somebody now. I'm grown.
I guess I'll start.
Go
Um,
ahead.
Balfour summer was the first summer that I felt I could be authentically me. Getting away from my family, um, being part of the LGBTQIA plus community and getting to just be myself, even in the Balfour. And we all know that it is a stereotype that people of color tend to not be as kind to people that are part of that community. And so for me to have that intersectionality and just be like, hey, this is who I am. And there were definitely, it's weird because there weren't, how many Balfours were there? I can't remember how many there were of us that year, but there were definitely, and you would think we would all like mesh and get along, and that was not the case. There were definitely like factions of us that ended up, but I just remember my
Can
faction
they
was
call them cliques? Yes.
yes. Yes, my clique, which included you, Ayana, and you, Jeff, and you, Joe. My clique was great and very supportive, and we had a lot of fun um, doing, that being together. And you all just really just embraced me and accepted me for who I was. And for me to have that for 4 weeks and then have to go home and kind of shut that down for a little bit until I could come back and do it again. Um, it wasn't easy, but I think it helped me on my coming out journey because that's when I finally decided, my mom used to ask me every year, once a year, out of the blue, she would ask me, are you gay? And I would always say no, just once a year, randomly. And after that Hesburgh summer, I was like, next time she asks me, I'm gonna say yes. And that cr coming back from Christmas break that year, she asked me on the way to the airport. And I just remember, like, even if I don't have that support at home, I have it at my second home because I have my friends that I made at Balfour who have already shown me that they love me and care for me and accept me for all of who I am. So that was just one of the greatest experiences.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Joe, what about you?
You know, I oh, um, I don't like. I didn't. I think for me, like after that Balfour summer and then going home, it wasn't so much. It was the fact that I was able, like, I got into Notre Dame. That I was the first one in my family to leave home to go to college, and so there was this sense of I think they would have thought it was a sense of like arrogance, maybe. And I'm like, oh yeah, I spent the summer at this, elite university with people who like me, and it's this huge advantage and privilege, and it was, but For some people, it was like there was like a switch or something. Like when people found out I went there, but they knew my background, a lot of people who I had been friends with in high school, there was this difference, like, oh, you think you're smart now, or something like that, that I hadn't been anticipating. But at the same time, while going to Balfour, I did realize how lucky we were, that we did get in. And I do remember speaking, like, it was weird, like Balfour sort of, we're these students of color sort of gathering together, and then other students of color who didn't get into Balfour, we were still able to sort of connect. There was that weird, like, oh, you went to Balfour and I didn't, which I didn't really get at the time, but I was lucky enough, and I think we were all lucky. Well, I can speak from my year and my experience that the majority of my friends were not the white students, but it was other students of color that I had met through friends from Balfour, or something like that. Like we came as a package. Like it wasn't just Joe. It was Joe and these Pete and Rahman and Graciela and Emiliano and Guillermo. Like it was sort of that thing, that really messed with my head, because when I went home, it was just Joe. It wasn't Joe and Balfour, and that support wasn't really there, that I got from, like, Notre Dame was the first place where I realized friends could be like brothers and sisters. And I'm actually closer with a lot of my friends more than I am with my actual sibling. And I just turned down a call from my sister, actually, to stay on this. So that says it all.
Apologize to your sister for us. Tell her you're with your other sister, Jeff. Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, I do. I think just the nature of the Balfour program, it just being, a smaller section of students, I do feel like, the tutoring and the interactions with all the different professors that we had during that summer, it kind of gave me a sense of security that unfortunately doesn't carry over when you start the academic year, right? Because again, you're dealing with bigger classes and bunch of students trying to, get one-on-one tutoring or trying to speak with the professor. So I feel lucky in that aspect that we did have the more intimate, smaller groups that were, able to interact more one-on-one with everybody. And then when you enter the academic year, it becomes more difficult to do that. So it kind of set up a false sense of security for me a little bit, I guess.
Sorry about that. One of the benefits of Balfour-Hesburgh is that you get to come back for another summer if you want to, and take, I think it was 2 classes we got to take, and we had got room and board, and I also worked, but you could work for the program, right? And so I think I did, like, was it like study hall monitor or something like that? And so coming back and seeing these bright young faces, and they were so excited and thinking, oh, my life is going to be like this forever. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh gosh, they just have no idea. They have no idea. And I know that for you, Joe, you experienced that big time with us when you
it,
came
it was
back.
so hard to, like, okay, like, I don't, like, they're so young, and mind you, it was like a 2-year difference, that it wasn't like I'm significantly older than all of you, but I do remember thinking, like, oh, they're in for a shock, or like, this is not how it necessarily is during the year. But I did try, like, like, because we were able to go back for every summer, and I really appreciated that, because that helped me with some classes that I had to retake. um but I tried to make it was one thing I wish I had had from, like, my RAs and the tutors and everything, was getting like, the ones that I really remember were the ones that introduced me to other Balfour students that weren't necessarily working in the program. So that was like, oh, I remember when I met Isaac Duncan. Isaac Duncan is a prolific artist right now in Tennessee. He had done Balfour, and he had done it the year that Alex Montoya had done it, and Alex was one of my tutors that year and that whole group. But then he introduced me to Isaac, who became sort of like my big brother when I was at Notre Dame, and I really sort of appreciated that. You could see the legacy of Balfour, and so like one of the things I hoped I did was trying to introduce some of you to some of the other students that didn't necessarily have the best experience. I know Rahman met a bunch of you the first night, and that was an interesting experience for some people. But you know, Balfour, it was like okay, because I did it 4 years or 3 years as staff. I got to see the, the generation, the sort of the generational sort of like aspect of it, but also like, okay, do I really tell these people how it really is? And I think I did in my own ways, or maybe we had those moments. But like your first day arriving, I was like, oh, poor things. Like they're so adorable, they're so cute, and I just remember thinking,
Look at those little baby
like little
deer.
babies. Yeah, like I
Oh.
remember having a conversation with Denise Rivera about like, okay, this is how it is. Like enjoy this now, but yeah, it's not going to be the same during the year. So you have to be intentional about enjoying this time and making the connections there, because it's going to be harder to make it later on.
And I definitely agree with that because it is if you don't establish a foothold that summer, then when you get into the fall, it's going to be so difficult, so very difficult. And my heart actually goes out to the other minority students who didn't have that benefit because my gosh, if I hadn't had Balfour, I don't know. I don't know. I probably would have left Notre Dame, to be quite honest, if I didn't have you all. And then my roommate Regina, we ended up becoming really good friends. If I didn't have that, and Adriana, she still calls me roomie. If I didn't have those bonds, I would have left Notre Dame because it was just so, it was like, whereas you all could be yourself, it was hard for me to be myself, right? I had to pray, I had to fast, I had to cover, and I didn't see anybody else like really doing that. Like you guys went to church on Sunday, there was mass on Sunday, but I was the only one doing what I was doing. And so it was hard for me to be myself. I mean, I still managed, but it did feel lonely, but I had my friends. I had my friends. And one of my friends, you guys remember Larice Woods, she wasn't in Balfour-Hesburgh, but she ended up being one of those people, Joe, like you said, who, another minority student who wasn't in it, but we got introduced and we lived in the same dorm. And she said to me, you know what, you just got to finish the game. You have to finish the game. And that's something that I still carry with me. But Balfour-Hesburgh did make it easier through the friendships. It wasn't just the academic stuff, because the academic stuff, it was valedictorian. Come on now. Yay. But the socialization, the friendships are what really got me through the tough times. And there were a lot of tough times. Some of us had to deal with personal losses in our family while we were at Notre Dame. And I know, Quincy, you had to deal with them, and another friend of ours had to deal with it. And it was just a lot. And you're growing up at the same time as you're going to college, and you're learning so much and you're doing so much. And so we all leaned on each other. We really did. And so share with me what that experience was like, having to lean on people during the hard times, these Balfour friends that you made. What was it like having to go through tough times together? I'll start with you, Quincy.
Yeah, so as you all remember, over over fall break freshman year, my father died. He actually died 2 hours before my plane landed that night. And I remember that the first thing I did when I found out was call and talk to, I believe I called Paulina, but you all happened to be together and let her know. And she not only told you all who were there, but she reached out to everyone else who in our friend group to let them know. And you all sent flowers for the grave, for the funeral, and I didn't wanna come back after that. I wanted to take the semester off, but my mother had 2 sons before me who had taken the semester off, and they never went back. So she told me, "No, you're going to go back." And I just can't imagine what it would have been like if I didn't have you all. I mean, that was a month and a half into my freshman year. Like, if I hadn't had Balfour, my connections with people would not have been, very strong at all, but I had my Balfour friends to really lean on, and that was such a blessing. That I was able to do that because I don't think I wouldn't have made it otherwise if I didn't have you all, checking on me and just making sure that I'm okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe was one of those people. Joe, you were somebody that we could lean on, somebody we could talk to. And I remember Quincy, you were someone I could talk to, you know? And I remember Jeff, you probably don't remember this, but it was one summer. We had gone bowling and then like the next day I threw my back out and I couldn't walk. And so you came to the
I
Fortune
remember that.
and you got me and you walked me back to the dorm. I literally could not move.
I
Oh
remember
my gosh. I was in so much pain. And then you became a doctor.
that. You inspired me.
Oh, I'm so glad I could. But Joe, what did it feel like being, going through stuff together and having to lean on
It,
each
it
other?
was it was great. I remember before. So my grandmother passed away. My grandmother was like the first like significant death that I sort of had to deal with, and it happened. She had been sick, and my family didn't tell me that she had been sick. And then I get a call around like we got off for I guess Easter break or something. So my parents said, "Okay, you're coming home." I saw my grandmother. She hadn't died yet, but you could tell it was coming, and I had to go back to campus. And then during finals, remember we had the phones in our rooms with the little red light if you had a message. Um, Oddly enough, after taking a test where there was a math question about the probability of an old woman dying, and that freaking me out, when I got back to my room, I had gotten a message that my grandmother had passed, and so I wanted to go home for the funeral, but it was around finals, and my parents were like, "No, like she wants you to finish this, like you need to finish this through." And so I said okay. And I remember like it was one moment where my roommate and I, like, again, we're not friends, we're nowhere near that, like I would name him right now, but no. Um but we called a truce, and I'm like, look, like my grandmother just died, like I can't tonight, like I don't have the mental energy to go to war with you right now. And he was actually very accommodating, so he ended up spending the night at another Balfour person's room that he had made friends through me. And then that night, I was hanging out with my core Balfour group, and I just didn't have the energy. Like I felt like I had to entertain, and I couldn't do it. So I went back to my room, and maybe about an hour later, Guillermo Rodriguez, who was part of my Balfour year, showed up, and then he ended up spending the night in my room, like just like supporting me through it and getting me through that. And so seeing that and never having had anything like that in my life, and it was the Balfour group that came together to support me. That's sort of what was like, okay, like I know what this is like firsthand. And some of the tragedies that some of the other Balfour students had, like it wasn't a grandparent, it was a sister, a father, a parent. And so because I had that, I wanted to make sure that if any of the next generations of the Balfourites were going through that like to really be there, not just as a friend to say, hey, are you okay? But to spend the time to be there. Like it's important to have that. And I don't think I would have survived Notre Dame if I didn't have like that was a time for me where it was like you guys might not have met me, I might not have met you. I was ready to leave, but what got me through that was my Balfour friends. Like and they made sure, like it wasn't like okay, are you okay? But like they spent time with me. And one of the best moments ever was when I opened that door and Guillermo was standing there. Like I was about to cry. Like I'm not a crier, really. Um, but that was someone that I made a connection with through Balfour. And so I think again, like, I wasn't the valedictorian, but I think we all could have survived Notre Dame. Balfour definitely helped us figure out how, like, we could have navigated it, but Balfour gave us the tools, right, to be able to do that. But I think for me, it was the social aspect that got me through it. Like, okay, I'm not like this Cuban kid in the middle of rural Indiana by myself. So yeah, that support that we gave each other, I was very lucky to have that my first year. And from what I've heard from Balfour alum who were there before me, they've said the same thing, that there was just something about all of us being together on campus during that time in our lives that made us then want to give back and support for each other, but also for like the future generations.
And it was just 4 weeks, but it we were doing everything together. We class, meals, outings together. And so Jeff, I know that you developed some pretty strong friendships with people. What did it feel like having that support system to lean on during difficult times?
For sure, it was extremely important. I was just going to say, hats off to Joe. I know we had talked about Michael Gonzalez earlier, but Michael Gonzalez and myself, we've known each other since preschool, so we were both valedictorians of our high school, and then we both went to Notre Dame. And during his time there, he lost his sister. And I remember Joe specifically. We're from Carlsbad, New Mexico, so Joe took it upon himself to physically be there in New Mexico for Mikey. And I know that's something was very important to Michael, and it just said a lot about the type of person Joe is. And again, we wouldn't have known you if we hadn't been in Balfour.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I keep muting on me. Yeah, but it was also reciprocal, and I think that was key. Like I remember, didn't we do like Christmas gift exchanging or something, like me, Kashana, Paulina, you, Quincy, Mike,
Yes,
Yep.
like it was
we
like
did.
a group like that. And then I even think about like after years later, like Denise Rivera was someone who really helped me out during a tough time in my life. And so kudos to her. Mike has helped me out earlier in my life. And so I think being there for each other and then still talking to each other, like in between our year, I think, do you guys remember Ricky Ramon? Like he was someone who had like we've all had struggles and we've all been there for each other. Like I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for Rahman Harris, may he rest in peace. And just I that came from Balfour, and seeing that in people like Angie Shambly. And then did you all know Esteban? Was he there your year? Esteban, tall guy with glass. He might have just worked there my year and the year after. He might have left the year before you. But seeing how at Kathy Sullivan and did you guys have Dr. Bote?
Yes, and we had Nahid
Yes,
Irfan. You remember
Irfan.
her?
Like the
Yep.
fact that some of them would stay late at night. Like I understand, especially now working in higher ed at a college. I know what it's like when it's 5 o'clock to just want to go home, right? But a lot of them, I do remember them like sticking around, staying, and it wasn't just what was in the classroom, right? But like they were the definition of mentors, I think, right? And so I think a huge shout out has to go to the staff, and I'm sure it's that way now. But it's Balfour is the one time in my life where I can say I was cared about from all different levels, from my peers, from other students, from faculty, from staff, and then my parents being on my ass, like you better do well, like and that's their form of caring. But it was the one time in my life, well, there's been other times, but where I genuinely felt like people actually cared about me. And if I needed support, I'm not the type of person to ask for support or help. But the fact that I've gotten it while I was at Balfour, while I was at Notre Dame, and then even afterwards, that speaks a lot to one, who we are as a people, but our commonality is the Balfour-Hesburgh program and our positive and our negative experiences at Notre Dame.
So what do you think, like in today's society, do you think that a program like the Balfour-Hesburgh program is needed now more than ever? Or is this something like, the whole controversy about DEIA, blah, blah, blah. Do you think this is something that don't really need it anymore?
Sorry, I'm just going to jump in
Yeah,
because
you definitely. I think we do. I'm just asking, what do
Oh.
you think about a program like this or this particular program? Do you think it's something that is still so very because it was needed when we were there. It absolutely was. But in today's world,
yes, it is.
do you
1000%.
think
100%, 1,000%.
yeah.
Oppression, racism, all these
Quincy, what do you
substances.
think?
Yes, I
Quincy?
agree that it's so needed. I feel that even if we lived in a utopian society where all of those things were magically erased, Balfour would still need to happen. And it is because it is because even in a utopian society, we as people of color, our experience is going to be different. And for us to be able to find our tribe early and have that support as soon as possible. Even if we lived in a utopian society, we would still need that tribe and that support because there is nothing like being around people that really understand your walk in life. We had at my job, we had a costume designer. She is the I've been at my job for 11 years now, and she is the first Black person that has ever worked at our facility beside myself. And my bosses said, the way you are now, they were like, you've always been happy. You've always, come in, done your job well. They were like, but we see that connection. They were like, we see and recognize like how important her being there is for you. Because, something would happen and I would just look at her and she would just look at me and we were thinking the same. And to just, we needed those connections. And even if we weren't to have Balfour and to come in, we would have to find each other. And at Notre Dame, that's hard to just find each other naturally because we are so spread out. Unless you are like an athlete and then you have your built-in community there or something like that. But it is such a necessary and important part of the Notre Dame experience that is needed for sure.
And that was the other thing. If you were a black man, and you went to the University of Notre Dame, everyone assumed you played football, right? And so
Not
meeting
me, not
black
the way I'm
men,
built.
not
They didn't
you,
think that about me.
other people, but having people there who didn't fit the mold for people who look like us was so important. But I don't think you could have just plopped us down into that environment and said, "Here, survive. Go ahead, survive like everybody else." I mean, we will if we have to, but I think that strain would have been too much for some of us. It really would have.
Ayana,
And so
go ahead.
go
Sorry.
ahead.
I was
No,
just
go
gonna
ahead.
say one thing that I remember about Regina and her telling me this, and it's just so telling for a lot of Notre Dame and their experience. She said to me, and I don't know if you were there when she said this, she said, the only thing I knew about Black people was The Cosby Show and Ricky Lake. She was like, "That is the only
Yes.
thing I knew about Black people." So I thought all Black people either acted like the people on Ricky Lake or the people on The Cosby Show. And I told her, I said, "Well, honey, we're all probably a mixture of both because I can go either way depending on the day." So
And they gave her one of the blackest black people as a roommate that they could find. Oh my gosh. I you know what? I'm so proud of us because when I think of what we went through at Notre Dame, not just what we experienced, but what we survived, I'm so proud of us. Like, what do you think your younger self would think about the person you are today? Joe, Joe, you're laughing. You're on mute, Joe.
You're still on mute, Joe.
Okay, this is how you can tell I'm older than all of you. One, surprised that I'm still alive. Like I like to be honest. I think that's sort of key. But yeah, I think I would be happy. Like I'm like okay, like it's not just the fact that I have a good job, but I have a partner that I love. I'm happy. I get to travel. Like I think 17-year-old Joe going into Zom Hall for the first time with some people he liked, some people he didn't like, and I that first night sitting in that room just kind of thinking if I saw where I am now, I think I'd be happy because I am happy, and I think that's key. And a lot of the opportunities for that came through Balfour.
What about you, Jeff? What do you think younger pre-med Jeff would think about you now?
I think he'd be pretty proud. I made it through. I went to med school. I have a husband that I love, and I have a family that loves me, and so I think everything has come to fruition as far as my dreams are concerned.
Do you think younger you would have been scared to live as you are now, like
For
fully
sure. Yeah,
embracing yourself? Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And so now
But
you're it's like it's just like it's not a big deal. It's
right,
natural. It's
exactly,
your life. It's
exactly.
who
Yeah,
you are.
yeah.
And like maybe younger you would have been like, no,
Probably
I
never would
can't
have
even imagine.
imagined. Yeah.
Never would have imagined. Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Mr. Starnes Williams?
Um, Definitely would be proud because, again, I say I would not be who I am now if that had not had been for that Balfour summer. That was my first dip into can I fully be who I want to be? And it was not only the gay part of me, but the black part of me. The Christian part of me that's not I'm not Catholic, but, going to, taking theology classes and, the intellectual part of me that was challenged, and I think the biggest thing my 17-year-old self would be like, "Wow, you married somebody 15 years older than you? Like, what is wrong with you? You're a grandparent and you're only 47? What is wrong with you?" That's the part I think 17-year-old me wouldn't be like, "What is happening here?" But I mean, as you all know, my dating experience while I was at Notre Dame, I tended to date older men. Um,
Listen, we all have some things we had to settle. Right?
yes,
We all had some things we'd rather not talk about, but we laugh about now.
yes. But I honestly think like I am so much more in touch with my blackness now than I was when I was 17 years old. Um, I walk, I think I walk, not even think, I know that I walk in my blackness stronger now than I did. And I don't think if I hadn't gone to Notre Dame, that would have happened. My mother specifically said that she did not want me to go to an HBCU because she says, you live in a white world. You got to learn how to deal with white people. Like, that's just the fact of the matter. Like, unfortunately, the world is not all black. And I know there's a lot of pride with going to HBCU, but I think going to Notre Dame and being black and surviving and doing as well as we all did makes you even stronger and more proud in who you are as a person of color in this world. And Balfour definitely helped with that, starting that off right.
And Notre Dame, to its credit, I mean, the University of Notre Dame provided us with so many opportunities to immerse ourselves in our culture, right? We had the multicultural student, I can't remember the names of things, but you all know what I'm talking about. It was called OMSA, the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs. That's what it was. And we had the Black Student Association. We had on the Hispanic side, you had was it folklorico?
Folklorico,
Folklorico?
and we had LULAC,
Yes.
and then we had Ha of Notre Dame, his Hispanic Americans of Notre Dame. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were so many opportunities for all of us to connect. And if we felt lonely, there was somebody there that we could talk to, some group or something we could talk, so that we could just go kind of lose ourselves in, and some people we could talk to. But also there were plays, there were musical performances, there were all these things that we could do. Like Joe, you directed a play
Direct.
called the Colored Museum. That was an amazing experience. So it's not like we didn't have all of these opportunities to still, embrace our Blackness or embrace the Latino side of us, or, just kind of, if we needed to find somebody just to unload about some of the racist stuff that was happening, we had somebody to talk to. Like, I mean, they really did try. They really did try. It was still kind of isolating, but they did try. And Balfour-Hesburgh program, the scholars program, wasn't just a try. It was a success. For me, it was a success. And I know one of the things I will carry with me from that summer, that I still carry with me, is that I can be myself, and there will be somebody, I'm about to cry. There will be somebody who will accept it, who will find it just fine, who will be okay, who I can settle in with and just be myself with. Like, I don't have to mask, I don't have to pretend. There is someone who will love me. I'll love myself, but there will be someone else who will love me. And you all have been that for me. And so I am so glad that um, you all are still around and we could still talk like this. But I also want to know, for you, what's that one thing that you still carry with you from your summers in the Balfour-Hesburgh program? And I'll start with you, Joe. Go ahead.
I'm lucky because working in higher ed, I've seen programs like Balfour, like Princeton has one, like most colleges that I've worked at, and I always compare it to Balfour. But some of the greatest memories of my life are from Balfour Hesburgh. But what do I carry most? Just the spirit of positivity, right? Like even when we were digging, right when we were in it, there was still someone to keep me aloft, someone to still carry me. And so I still keep that sort of spirit. And I do remember my year as a participant. I was a very difficult person to be friends with. Like I kind of went in with this like, okay, I'm from the East Coast, right? Like, I'm from Jersey. Like I live near New York. Like, oh, I've been to clubs, I've been to bars. Like all y'all from like the Midwest or California. Like, no, you don't know how to live life. And that was a struggle. Like I did have that like East Coast, like fake New Yorker thing, kind of going. And then Pete Sanchez from Brownsville, Texas, was like one. I was having a really bad day and I was walking with friends, and I think it's human nature to just commiserate and complain about everything. So I was complaining, and then Pete Sanchez turned around and was like he had had enough, and to shut me up, he said, "You know what, Joe? I appreciate your presence in my life." And I still remember that to this day. And I've used that phrase. And I think part of it was to just shut me up because I kept complaining nonstop. But he said it with this genuineness, and then I got to see that like I appreciated the people, but the people also appreciated me. So that sense of appreciation, that sense of even when things are down, you have to be there for the support, and I do that in my role now. So Balfour has impacted me both personally and professionally, and so I'm able to sort of see that. But that memory is the one that sort of one of many that sort of sticks out. But that's the one as a participant. But as an RA, I remember this was around the time of the movie Scream, and we were calling someone, And oh man, what's your favorite horror movie? There was I feel like Ayana, you're laughing because I feel like you were the you were the primary culprit of that. So that memory of
She was the
it was
voice.
the voice,
Yes, I remember
the
this.
person who we called. Um, but yeah, that's a very funny memory.
Whatever you say happened, I
Maybe
guess
it
it
did, maybe
did.
it
I don't
didn't.
know. I don't remember. What about you, Jeff? What do you carry with you still to this day from your Balfour summers?
I think it's the friendships. I mean, look, it's been what, 30 years since we've met each other that first time, and we're virtually sitting across from each other, and so it's the friendships that we're still talking to each other, we're still interested in each other's lives and their goings on, and I think I'm just really proud of how everything turned out.
Still sharing each other's reposts on TikTok. Jeff has a hilarious FYP. I share everything that he shares. It's hilarious. What what about you, Quincy?
I would definitely, again, the friendships. I mean, all I have to do is say yellow cab, and y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, just the jokes that we have with each other, the support that we give. I mean, Paulina, I've seen her a couple of times, and whenever she comes to Houston, like, we make a point of seeing each other, and, it's just the friendships, but also I would say it was the relief that I'm not the only one, like I said, 72 kids in my graduating class, and I think 5 of us were Black, and, it's going to Balfour and realizing I'm not the only one. I'm not the only great Black hope of somebody's family. There are more of us out there, and we can support each other in this craziness that we have to go through. And also learning that there's a place for us, but we have to provide that place for each other. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in my adult life is being a Black male educator who teaches musical theater and dance in the South, and that when a Black kid, especially a Black boy, comes in for the first time and they see me and they see that I'm their instructor, and that was one of those things, like, going and seeing Black professors and these Black people who were in higher education, who were mentoring and caring about us, and now I get to do that for another generation. Well, I think 3. I've been teaching for I've been at my job for 11 years, but I've been doing this for 20, so, um, that is something that Balfour has that I kept, those 2 things for sure.
That is wonderful. And yeah, representation matters. Representation means hope. And yes, minority students still need to see each other. We do. We absolutely do. Um, but also, the Balfour-Hesburgh program created community, and community is important as well. Community means survival. It means thriving. It means help. It means reaching out. It means, when you're having a tough time, when maybe you're not mentally strong, your community is going to be there to fill in whatever it is you need to be filled in. And it means laughter, and it means tears, and it means just hanging out and going to the movies. And community is so important. And Balfour-Hesburgh created a community for us that we carried with us into our elder years. We're still here. We're still a community, and it's wonderful. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm so glad that I could still be here with you all and just kind of sit and talk like it's old times. And we've all gotten older, and we've made some different choices in our lives, but we're all still the same people. We're still the same people. Still the same. Still, Quincy's still funny. Jeff is still so quiet and cute. And Joe is just Joe. Joe is the big brother. Joe will always be the big brother. Always, always, always. And I'll be making the snarky comments from the back forever. I'll never change. But If you guys have any last words to share with the podcast for this episode, you're welcome to do so now.
I just want to thank Balfour, and I'm surprised 40 years. Wow. And the impact that it had on my life, and all of your lives, and all the generations that have come since. I'm proud to be a Balfour-Hesburgh student alum.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing. Just thank you to the Balfour-Hesburgh program for giving me that opportunity back in 1996, where, you know, I wasn't sure if going to Notre Dame was the right thing for me, and showing that, yes, there is community there. I won't be alone. I can be authentically myself, and I can make it. Like, yes, I can do the work. I'm going to have to put in work to do the work, but I can do it, and it is possible.
Yes, same. I'm very grateful to have participated in the program. I'm very grateful for the kickstart that it gave me to my college career at Notre Dame, and I hope everybody else has the same experience moving forward.
And I will echo those sentiments. I'm so glad that Balfour-Hesburgh plucked this little black girl from the obscurity of the ghetto and put her in another Midwestern location to be able to thrive and pre face challenges that I would have during the academic year. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to everybody. I'm grateful to everyone who participated in the program during our years, and to the staff, and to my cohorts, some of whom are here today, and just the university for taking a chance on me and providing that community that lives on to this day. And I am so glad that we could do this. We could be here and share in the 40th anniversary of the Balfour-Hesburgh program. Oh my gosh, 40 years. That is so wonderful. We are so lucky to be a part of this. And I think our time, we've talked. I think maybe, yeah, we've talked enough. We probably have. We could go on. We could. I could, but they probably will cut that off in editing. But I wanted to say thank you for joining us for the second episode of Dialogue Through the Decades, Conversations with Balfour-Hesburgh alumni. And thank you to our guest for sharing your wisdom and stories with us. The story of the Balfour-Hesburgh Scholars Program is not only about access to higher education, it is also about what happens when students find community in places where they once expected isolation. It's about mentorship, aspiration, friendship, and about the quiet and profound ways people carry one another through unfamiliar worlds. 40 years later, members of all of the classes are celebrating the anniversary of the Balfour-Hesburgh program, but particularly for us, we still remember the feeling of arriving young, hopeful, unsure, not yet knowing that the people we meet during our summer would become part of the architecture of our lives. And for the 40th anniversary of the Balfour-Hesburgh Scholars Program at the University of Notre Dame, I'm Ayana. You met Quincy, Joe, and Jeff. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And for more information about the 40th anniversary Shindig Throwdown, let me go on over to that. For more information about the Balfour-Hesburgh Scholars Program, please visit our website and stay tuned for more information on events celebrating our 40th anniversary this fall. To see more about what our students are up to, you can find us on the Instagram at Balfour_Hesburgh_scholars. To find out more or to share this series with your friends, please visit think.nd.edu. And remember, go Irish!